Once again, warm welcome to those of you who just joined day 4 of Living Well. Today's topic is positive thinking, the power of positive thinking. I want to first start off by sharing what I'm observing out there in the world right now. So clearly there is a strong influence of this virus and the impact it's had around the world on all of our lives. And I look at it as a strong breeze that is blowing. Now, this breeze could at any moment turn into a storm. Now, I don't want to sound fatalistic. I don't want to sound apocalyptic, but that's a reality. Now, think about why I'm saying that. So right now, everybody is kicking and screaming, literally and metaphorically, when we have one of our privileges taken away, which is our freedom to go out and travel and do things, shopping and going to the movies, going to the parks. I mean, parks you can still go, but some beaches are closed here in San Francisco, so not everything is accessible. So one of your privileges have been taken away and the world is roaring in tumult, okay? So I ask that you consider this. Why is it that happening? Is that because there is something for us to learn? Mother Nature is trying to tell us something, okay? Now ask yourself this question, am I learning that? Is the world learning that? Is the population, is the general humanity's consciousness picking up that lesson? And if for whatever reason, I'm not saying yes or no, but if for whatever reason it is not picking up the big lesson that we need to, what we need to learn and rise from the situation and transform ourselves and not try to just return to the normal. What is it about normalcy that you want to keep, and what is it about the new normal that you want to return back to, where you leave certain old, unhealthy, polluting, debilitating habits, right? So, okay, now, if we should not learn that lesson in time, guess what? Mother Nature has to crank up the volume of her voice so that she can be heard. So what does that mean? So if indeed we go from just having one freedom taken away, what if lights go out, water goes out? What if Wi-Fi, which is now, I don't know, probably high end of that spectrum, what if we don't have this ability to connect like we are doing right now and creating virtual communities, right? Now that will be a storm, wouldn't you agree? So I ask that you think about, what does it take to survive a storm? And I ask that you to prepare for it, because you see, some of you were commenting and said, Jay, I just love the way you're in energy with which you come into this calls. I love the positive attitude. And I tell you folks, it's not something that has just come out of a miracle or a magic or something that I just picked up overnight. It is a training for 20 years. Some of you know this. I have surrendered. I became a monk living at an ashram for 20 years. So 20 years ago, I walked in there when I was still in college, and daily practice, we started at 4 a.m. in the morning and it ended 10 o'clock at night when I go to bed, where every hour was clearly described, was clearly laid out as to what is it that I'm going to be doing. So my timetable was set. And I'm not saying this really as something that is greatness on my part. No, I actually inherited it from this wonderful organization, from a very ancient Raj Yoga tradition, that I fortunately was able to be exposed to it. And then I liked it and I decided to get affiliated to it. And then I embraced the daily discipline of it. And thereby, now that when I feel like I'm stuck at home, it's just, for me, it's like a retreat. And some of you know this, every year in January, I do 3 weeks of silence anyway, staying at home. So for me, this is just like that, except I'm now talking. So I'm actually more free now than I would be in my personal silence retreats. So what I'm asking you to think about is, what is the preparation that you need to have for you to be able to weather the storm? And you will not be, take this very seriously, you will not be able to stand up to the storm if there hasn't been prior preparation. So if you don't build that into your daily schedule, whether it's this meditation, whether it's positive engagement with people who have higher consciousness, whether it is taking walks for yourself, whether it's contemplation, reflecting on what's important to you, the deepest part of your own being. What is Mother Nature trying to tell us at any given point in time? Connection with the divine. eating healthy food, eating food that is not acquired through violence, all of those things together, and probably many more things that I have not mentioned and don't have the time to mention today. What is it that you need to make that part of your daily discipline that should the volume of Mother Nature, as I described, be cranked up, that you will be able to embrace it, you'll be able to withstand it, you'll be able to thrive in the circumstances and not fold. So for that, I want to take the analogy of the trees. What can we learn from trees? I say trees can weather storms, or those trees that do weather storms, there are three particular qualities in them. Number one, trees have flexibility. So they have the ability that when the wind starts blowing, that they're able to go with the wind and bend. So there's a certain amount of yield to it. What does yield mean in our lives as human beings? Yielding to our own ideas, to our own attitudes, to our own sense of what we think is our comfort zone. So when we are able to be flexible to circumstances and say, okay, today we don't have everything that we wished for, we wanted, which we had yesterday, but we understand that there is a certain circumstances that I'm willing to mold to, I'm willing to bend and willing to be able to assimilate. So that's the first quality of what makes a tree be able to withstand a storm. The second thing is a strong foundation. And this is what I was alluding to earlier, when daily practice, when clear thinking and identifying what is it that is true to the deepest part of you, what is it that you resonate most, and what is the meaning of purpose of your life. When you align with that core foundation values, then when you meditate on it, when you solidify it, that becomes your strength when there's a storm that comes at you. Right? Think of an oak tree. It's got its wide trunk. The trunk is so strong. That's why I call it strong as an oak. That's a phrase that we've been hearing. So look at what makes your foundation, what makes your trunk, what makes your core strong, that should this storm come at me, I'll be able to withstand, and be able to not break and crumble as a storm passes. Everything shall pass. We know it'll all pass. So the question is, how do we come out on the other side of it? And then the third quality of trees that is worthy of learning from is trees rely on community. Trees rely on the forest. Trees rely on each other. So the blow of the storm is softened on each one of them. Understanding the importance of community here, which is what we're doing here, which is fantastic that you all have elected to come here, and you've been coming here every night for this is the fourth night we've come together here. It's daytime for some of you in the other part of the world. So recognizing the importance of satsang. Sat is true, sang is company. So what is the kind of company that you want to keep that is taking you towards your truth, the higher truth, and the importance of that? And the questions that we've been asked every day pretty much is the same question coming up. How do I protect myself from the negative influences and the information and the fear mongering that's going on? So my answer has been the same thing. It is, you are an average of the company you keep. Who are you allowing into your circle, your inner circle, right? So here in Northern California, we have the famous redwood trees, some of the tallest trees in the world. And it's a very interesting characteristic of these redwood trees. They're very tall, but their roots do not go very deep, which is ironical, because if you think about San Francisco, Bay Area, Northern California, all of California, we sit on a fault. We sit on one of the biggest earthquake zones in the world. And so these trees that are 400, 500, 1,000 years old have survived many such earth-shattering, literally, episodes, and they yet tend to survive. How come? So if you look at the quality of one of the characteristics, unique things about the redwood trees is that they have a very strong root system. And this root system is what integrates it with the rest of the redwood forest. So they intertwine themselves. So the roots from one tree to the other to another, they intertwine themselves, creating this very strong web underneath the surface. So what can we learn from there? So our connections are not superficial. The ones that will actually protect us is not the ones that are superficial, but it's the deep, the ones that are connected at the heart, at the root in this case. So the deep principles by which we align with a deep sense of faith and trust that we have in that community that we know will protect us and will also be there for us when we need it, and we are there for them when they need it. So it's a give and take kind of a situation. So ask yourself, am I consciously selecting the company that I'm keeping? Yes, not every connection that I ever have, not all my colleagues at work or all the people in my family, my neighborhood, I don't have a choice on some of those things, but I do have a choice on finding certain sets of friends, then I choose to spend time with those people. Now, whether that means, physically, or whether it's in this particular case, physically is not possible. So we're doing things like this virtually, one-on-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, however you want to like to do this. Okay. So something to ponder about. And I now want to go into a little somatic exercise, which we always do. So how we go from conversation, dropping into the body. So in this particular exercise, I want you to use your seat, assuming that you're sitting on a chair, probably on the floor or wherever you are. I want you to twist. So I want you to use maybe your back or the chair's back, whatever it is. And as you're breathing out, take a nice twist to one side. Inhale as you come back to center. And as you go to the other side, exhale again, making a nice spine twist. Inhale as you're coming in. Let's do this a couple more times. Breathe out as you're making a nice stretch. And then coming back in, let's do this on the other side. And then one last set on both sides. Right, now let's drop into our heart space. If you want to keep your eyes open or closed, that's completely up to you. Where my attention goes, my energy flows. And where my energy flows, it grows. My thoughts are creating my destiny. So what is the quality of my thoughts? As I sit relaxed and breathe deeply, I slowly let go of all tension in my body. I pay attention especially to my shoulders. Are they loose and relaxed? Notice if I'm holding any tension in my limbs, my arms, my legs, my feet. Notice if I'm holding any tension in my stomach. I breathe in and out gently. I have all the time in the world. There is nowhere I need to go, nothing I need to do. I sit here with myself, relaxed and peaceful. I take a look at my thoughts and calm them down by concentrating on a few simple positive thoughts about myself. I see myself in a positive way. As of today, I see myself for the very first time. When I look at myself in this new way, I see myself in my original form without stress or resistance. Detached and yet fully involved. I recognize the energy of my own thinking and realize its power and potential. Everything that I think about myself, I will experience. I will bring it into practice, and so I shall become. I am what I think. It is important that my ideas about myself are crystal clear and positive because in this way I create a new personality. I look at myself and see inner peace, a natural inner silence, balance, and inner strength. I see inner peace, a natural inner silence, balance, and inner strength. Whatever I choose to think about, I can think about. I can finish these thoughts and concentrate on those. I choose the subject, and that's where my thoughts go. These thoughts then become a thought pattern. If I think about myself in a new way, a positive way, then a positive thought pattern is developed. And then this pattern will slowly become natural. I see myself as a tranquil personality, very quiet inside and relaxed. I am the one who decides what happens in my life. From this deep inner calmness, I take decisions that are important in my life. With this newly found strength and direction, I can catch and change the rush of my thoughts. When things get out of hand, or if I panic, by creating such silent, positive thoughts, I can calm down. I feel a natural quietness. A state of peace which is part of my original personality. The peace I'm looking for, I find within myself. I only have to concentrate on it. And through the concentration of these thoughts, I will go into the feeling and will experience this peace. So peaceful, so quiet inside. Even the greatest chaos in my mind, even the highest speed of thinking, I can calm down by repeating these same thoughts about myself. I am peace. I am balanced. I am silent. Peace, balanced, and silent. Now extend this peace into your environment with each exhale. as if you're drawing from your source at the core of your being. And with each exhale, fill your home with this peace and silence. Let this energy touch all your loved ones. And then let it extend out into your neighborhood. And let this peace touch those in your neighborhood. And let's extend that out further, reaching out to your entire region, maybe your state. And see if you can extend that out to your entire country. And let's extend that out to the entire world. Seeing this earth engulfed in a cloud of peaceful white light. As you gradually bring yourself back into your heart space, being centered in the here and now, notice the calm, peaceful energy that is in and around me. This is the power of your own thinking. As I think, so I create my atmosphere. Now visualize yourself carrying out for the next 24 hours with this energy. See yourself moving around with this beautiful aura of peace around you. While it is very important to take time to go within, it is also important for us to take time to go outside. Being under the sun with the breeze in my hair is a natural therapy to feel positive about yourself. So ask yourself, how am I getting outside today? How am I going to engage with nature today? And at your own pace, if you gradually want to come back, open your eyes. And I'd love to hear your responses to the inquiry. How do I see myself getting out today? And how do I want to engage with nature? So go ahead and type it in, and you can change the responses to everyone in the meeting as you're typing in so we can see. So I'm beginning to see some responses. I want to be with plants and vegetables. Yes, beautiful. If you have access to a garden, especially a vegetable garden, that's a wonderful way to be able to get out. Thank you. And as we're waiting for responses to come in through the, yes, I'm seeing lots of responses coming in. So those of you who have any questions that have come up, please go ahead and formulate them, and maybe you can start typing the questions in the Q&A section. There's a separate little window for the Q&A. So some people are saying walking in the park, down the street. I want to go on a bicycle. I want to be planting vegetables. I meant, okay, she meant actually planting vegetables, not just walking, nothing. Chemo says, I want to sail my boat. Yes, bro, you should. She's feeling lonely out there in the dock. And then Asha says, gratitude, nature, beauty, fortunate that I have a park and a bay in front of me. Wonderful. Kiran says, go out with a smile and breathe fresh air. Yes. Kathy says, be a tree at one with the forest. Well, Kathy, you've been listening. That's great. Ranjini Auntie is saying, I enjoy walking in my garden. Beautiful. Yes, you have a beautiful garden that you worked on for so many decades on it. So it's a reward. It's a gift for all the effort you put in there. Margarita is saying that, wait, I lost that. Yeah, in a very respectful way, also want to start a herb garden in my house. Wonderful. Going to my balcony, looking out at the trees and seeing the sun. I only see a few responses. Well, I'm reading out the rest, so don't worry. You're not missing anything. Watching the baby bunnies come out and the new spring flowers popping out everywhere. Yes. Kissed by the liquid sunshine. Wow, that's getting poetic here. Wonderful. Ride my motorcycle when it stops raining. Yes, I'm with you there, Nosheen. My bike has been sitting also under a tarp in the rain. So I need to get out on my motorcycle too. Okay, folks. So then Q&A time. So why don't you go ahead and ask any questions, and then we will take them in order as I get them. So while the questions are coming forth, sitting in the window, well, I get another comment here, sitting in the window, which has direct sunlight and beautiful views of the trees, birds in the national park. Wow, that's beautiful. Which national park? Maybe you want to comment on that as well, or probably change the scene of the national park every day. All right, so the first question has come from Diksha. She asks, how can I tell my 4-year-old about the situation? Well, that's a great question. So the 4-year-old will probably best understand, first of all, that it's something not like the end of the world, and it will be clear to the child that it's not something that is preposterous. It's not something that is out of control when he or she, I don't know whether your 4-year-old is a male or female, but let's just go with it, sees mom and dad being at peace with the situation, right? So now how much the 4-year-old will understand about a coronavirus that is morphed or mutated from the animal species before it jumped into the human chain, I don't know. And whether the 4-year-old will understand the level of how contagious this particular virus is, I don't think the 4-year-old will be able to get its head around that. So what I would say is rather treat this as a game and use this as an opportunity to tell your child how it is important for us to feel completely comfortable with being indoors and being grateful that we do have an indoors to be comfortable in. And we do have food in the refrigerator, water that's coming out of our faucet, a warm bed to sleep in, electricity when we turn on the switch, games we can play, music we can sing, dancing when we choose to, etc. So maybe that's the lesson there, that how can we make it comfortable to be in the circumstances without having to get into the scientific and the nitty-gritty of it. You know, when you're asking this question, Diksha, the thing that is popping up in my mind is that beautiful, one of my favorite movies all time is Life is Beautiful. You remember that one? World War II, that movie that's set in Italy, in the ghettos of Italy. And how this baroness, this guy, this poor fellow goes and marries this rich woman, and then they have a baby, and then World War II breaks out. And so all the Jews, the guy happens to be a Jew, and he gets pushed into the concentration camp. The whole family is in the concentration camp. And then the kids are put in one particular camp, and then the parents, the mother is separated, father is separated, they're all separate camps. But then the father escapes, or he kind of gets out, not from the entire concentration camp, but from his quarter, and goes to the child's quarter to make sure the child is doing okay. And then he makes the child hide in that one little, some sort of like a dog shed almost. I don't know what it actually is, but it looks like a little shed in the camp, in the concentration camp. And then as he's trying to get back from the situation, he's actually spotted by the Nazi army. And he's then taken to the line of fire, right? He's going to be killed. He's going to be shot dead. But then as he has to be taken to his execution, he's actually has to pass by in front of that little shed where his boy is hiding. It's a little small box, literally like a kennel, like a dog shed. And then through that slit, the child can see that the father is going to be taken somewhere, and that there are the soldiers. And he chooses to take that very difficult, very traumatic, it's a few minutes before he's actually going to be killed. And he chooses to make that an entertainment, a means by which the child feels safe and not fearful of what's going on. And so he marches. If you remember that scene, he marches in goose stepping as they call it, like, you know, really high rise of arms and legs. And he pretends like it's a joke that's happening, so that the child doesn't feel that something terrible is about to happen to the father, and thereby him running out of that shed, and then he himself, the little fellow, will also be executed. So I'm not saying that we are in that situation, that there is no world war going on and that we're not ready to be executed, but the message there is the attitude, how the parents can have this ability to turn anything into a beautiful experience for the children, right? It's about creativity. It's about trying to make it entertaining. It's about really you finding ways to present this in a way that it's actually a growing, a learning, a family opportunity. Okay. Satish has asked another question. How do you deal with the fear of virus that is real and inevitable? Yes. And yesterday, Satish, we talked about that. The day before, we talked about that. And so I've talked about the role of the virus and then the role of the fear, right? And by now you should know, I think you're wise enough, your wife is a doctor, that the role of fear on the immunity of my body, of your body, on anybody's body is intense. So there is a natural immunity with which the body is capable of fighting the virus. As you know, 88% of people are surviving this thing, including, I just read today, a 100-year-old grandmother. She survived the COVID-19 attack. So she was actually infected and then she still came out of it. So we are capable of fighting it if you let the body do its job. But if you're going to get in the way, and if you're going to pump it with all the toxins of fear that comes in from your consumption of incessant fear mongering that's out there in the media and in the news and in social media, etc., then guess what? That is going to percolate. That is going to turn into toxins. Toxins are going to go undermine your stress response system, your fighting capacity against what is out there. So that's how you deal with it. You have responsibility to keep yourself in a positive mindset, which is what we're doing here, which is what you're supposed to be doing throughout the day, which is why I leave you with these positive little experiments for you to be playing with for the rest of the day. These thought experiments that you should be practicing. So by the way, people asked me in the first day, they said, what is it that you want me to walk away with? I want you to walk away with this, not this to be a 20-minute exercise. I want this to be a day-long exercise as long as you're awake. As in today's particular meditation, I said, anytime you feel anxiety kicking in, go back to saying, I'm a peaceful soul. I'm calm. I'm balanced. Just repeat that mantra until what happens is that becomes your personality. And when it becomes your personality, then you don't have to worry about fear becoming your sense of threat and it overwhelms you, because the inside is speaking louder than the outside, because you have trained, you've taken time to invest into creating this new neural networks, the positive thinking neural networks versus the one that is just kind of going with the flow and just being beaten about from one side to the other with all the news that is coming at us. So that's your responsibility. That's each one of our responsibility to protect what is happening, as I said yesterday, inside my head space, this sacred little temple, this home that I have, which is my mind, which happens to be the master of the rest of my body. Okay? Who would you let into that sacred space? So be very choosy, be very careful about what you let in. I belong to God, Melissa says, implies he will take care of me. Yes, God will take care of you, but you got to do your part of the equation as well. You got to take your responsibility. You have to be sensible. And I know you're sensible. My son's name is Yash. Thank you, Diksha, for telling me your son's name is Yash, the boy. So yes, for sure. Yes. Okay, folks. So that brings us to the end of our time. Thank you very much. I hope you have enough homework from this exercise. Remember the 3 points I talked about, the tree. I'll repeat them once again to summarize. First of all, a tree that survives a storm is capable of flexing, bending. Second, a tree that is strong at its core, foundationally strong, is able to withstand any storms. And finally, a tree that lives in a community called a forest is able to spread the force of the gale that is coming at it, and thereby it softens the influence of the onslaught. So I ask that you think about this. I ask that you meditate. I ask that you keep positive. I will see you soon tomorrow, same time, same place on the same channel. Until then, be well.